Hello and welcome back, grade 12 accounting students. Those that have just switched on their TV and joined us, we're focusing on paper 2 and looking at some common errors that students make in their exams. How do we know that these are errors? Because we are the ones that mark the papers, and obviously common because it's generally a whole lot of scripts where we see these mistakes. Okay, so we're focusing on errors made in manufacturing, and now I'm turning my attention still on manufacturing, but the calculation of break even. Now, when we look at break even, obviously, what is break even? You know this. It's that point of production where there's no profit or there's no loss. So in other words, how many units must be manufactured to break even? Okay, so the emphasis is on units. Right, now what do we mean by units? If I'm manufacturing chocolates, how many chocolates must I make in order to break even? If I'm manufacturing cell phones, how many cell phones must I make in order to break even? Okay, now why am I emphasizing on this? Because in your answer, guys, remember when you get the answer, right, you are calculating units. It's not rands. Okay, it is actual units. So the moment we see rands, right, immediately that's incorrect because you're calculating that point of production, the number of units, the number of chocolates you must make in order to break even. Okay, you guys got that? Right, now when it comes to the formula, remember, most of you should know this formula, or you can use your formula sheet. That's something also really important that I didn't really quite touch on. But remember, you are given that formula sheet for a reason. So make sure you're comfortable with the formula sheet. You know which formula is used when, because that's there as a source of information that you need to be familiar with. Right, so when you're calculating break even, we all know it's total fixed cost, right, divided by selling price per unit minus variable cost per unit. Okay, so your final answer obviously needs to be units, right? So fixed costs, we often see this, we often do see this error, and I think here, let me just go straight to an example because there's not much time left, and I think it's going to help if I'm explaining using the example. So in this case, use the information given to work out or calculate break-even point. 10,000 units were produced and sold for the financial year. Right, so from the information given, as you can see, we've got sales, direct material cost per unit, direct labor cost per unit, selling and distribution cost per unit, fixed cost, which is the total fixed cost, and fixed cost per unit is given to me. Right, so my calculation as follows: fixed cost divided by selling price per unit, what I wrote above, minus variable cost per unit. Okay, right, now let's start with fixed costs. Now from the information given, as you can see, I've got total fixed costs for the year, right, as well as fixed costs per unit. Now which one do I use? Do I use fixed costs per unit, or do I use the total fixed costs? And the answer to that is you always use the total fixed cost. Okay, so please guys, right, this 20 rand, no, I don't need that amount. I need the 200,000, the actual total fixed cost for production. Okay, so 200,000, right, you're using your total fixed cost, not for production, sorry, it's for the year, your total cost, your fixed cost for the year. Fixed cost, generally it's given to you, but if it's not given to you, remember it's your factory overheads, which is regarded as a fixed cost, plus your admin costs. So those two amounts added up gives you your total fixed costs for the year. Okay, right. So remember, do not make that mistake. Don't use 20 Rand. Okay, then selling price per unit. This is the important part, guys. So selling price, right? I'm given my total sales. Can you all see that? But remember, I need it per unit. So the number of units that were produced and sold, 10,000. So to get my selling price per unit, I'm taking 1 million divided by 10,000. I think it should be 100 Rand, but let's just quickly double check. So let's make sure I've got enough zeros there. Yes, I do. Divided by, I think it was 1,000, or was that 10,000? Let me just quickly double check. It was 10,000. So my selling price per unit is 100 Rand. Okay, so 100 Rand, right? Not total sales. So minus variable cost per unit. So remember, your variable cost is the sum of direct material cost plus direct labor cost plus selling and distribution costs per unit. Now, again, when you're doing past papers, you will see that often they will give you the variable costs per unit, right? Or they'll give you total variable cost. If they give you variable cost per unit, right, no one's more happy because all you're doing is you're filling in that amount. But if they don't, again, exactly what we did with sales, take your total variable costs and please divide that by the number of units that were produced and sold. Right, so in this case, 20 plus the 30 to give me 50 plus the 10 giving me 60, so minus 60. Okay, right, one more step, 200,000 divided by 40, right? And here's that important part that I want to highlight, right? Not the answer, but more divided by 40. How many units must I produce in order to break even? 5,000 units. Okay, so 5,000 chocolates, right? 5,000 cell phones, whatever you are producing in terms of units, right? Do not put that Rand in front because generally this is what the students do. Okay, so in order to break even, this business needs to produce 5,000 units. Okay, now guys, remember I mentioned earlier on, we get students using that 20 Rand. Right, now remember, if you're going to use that 20 Rand, 20 divided by 40, okay, I'm getting 0.5. Now think about it. Really, do you think the business is going to produce half a unit and cover all their fixed costs? Think about it, guys. Not going to happen. Okay, so the moment you get this kind of strange answer, you need to tell yourself, hey, hang on, I messed up somewhere. Okay, I didn't read carefully or I used the wrong amount. Right, so remember, you can't get half a unit. It's not possible. Then why are you even spending time manufacturing a product if that's the case? Okay, you've got to get like quite a nice answer. In this case, yeah, I've got 5,000 units, but remember this could be 5988, comma something, right? Round that up to the nearest unit. Okay, you can't produce half a unit in order to break even. Okay, right, not much time left, but hopefully you're not going to make this mistake. I've got just under 3 minutes, so another section. Okay, I'm just going to touch on this. Cash budget, projected income statement. Guys, please remember that if you are tested on a cash budget, right, you are being tested on a receipt, payment, and obviously you are not including non-cash items. Okay, so when I talk about a receipt, I'm referring to expected cash that the business is expecting to receive. Okay, receipts from debtors. I'm expecting to receive this money from my debtors. Cash sales. The owner is going to be investing more capital, or more shares are going to be sold, or whatever the case may be. Similarly with payments, cash purchases of stock, payments to creditors, and so on. Non-cash items do not belong in the cash budget. So when I talk about non-cash items, I'm referring to things like depreciation, loss of stock, and so on, bad debts. That does not belong in your cash budget. Right. Similarly, if you are looking at the projected income statement, remember the focus here is on expected future profits. So this is where now we're looking at income, we're looking at expenses, and obviously here we are looking at non-cash expenses in this particular case. So this is where you will include items such as depreciation and your bad debts and so on. Okay, right, it's just a pity that we've run out of time, or we could have, went a bit deeper into these topics, but I think I've covered quite a bit in this few minutes that we've had together. Guys, please, again, focus on preparing for your exam. Take note of the errors that I've mentioned, and yeah, we want you to achieve the highest possible marks, so let's avoid making these errors. From me, Mahesh Lal, it's good luck, God bless, and yeah, we're looking forward to chatting to you soon. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.